Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everyone. Lady Gaga recently finished her Australian leg of the Mayhem Ball, and we waited 11 years for the icon to return, and so many friends of mine have had a blast attending multiple shows. Gaga is one of those unstoppable artists whose music, legacy, and art has touched millions. So it's no surprise then that she's indirectly responsible for many of her fans finding friendship, true love, heartbreak, great sex, and everything in between. Today, on this special one-off episode of Date or Disaster, I'm going to read out some Little Monsters submitted stories on how their dates, disasters, and hookups came about because of the shared love for Lady Gaga. And I'm also going to talk about my own experiences. So strap in, this is going to be total mayhem. Welcome back to Date or Disaster, the podcast that spotlights the truly bizarre what the fuck stories on dating apps, Tinder, Grindr, and all that shit in between. My regular co-hosts, Robert Grigor and Chris Northover, will unfortunately not be joining me for this episode, as I quickly put this together and didn't want to intrude on their day-to-day, especially so close to Christmas, so their presence will be sorely missed. I'm sure Robert's probably sealing a traffic code as we speak. Now, with Gaga having been in Australia for the first time in 11 years, it made me think of how she was instrumental in a lot of my friendships, and also some relationships and hookups from my teenage years all the way to my mid-20s. As someone who is now 33, I'm just blown away by how much she had shaped my life back then. Likewise though, I'm equally appalled by some of my own behaviour towards fellow Gaga fans, and we'll get into that very shortly. I asked my followers on Instagram and TikTok to send me any stories where they felt they had similar experiences, e.g. did they make friends at a Gaga show, or perhaps they matched on Tinder for liking the same Gaga album, etc., and the responses were more than I hoped. I also made a post on Reddit under the Lady Gaga subreddit and received more responses, so I'm going to break this down into different segments, based on Gaga's own song titles. To start off with, we're going to enter bad romance territory. These stories are all based on love gone wrong, cheating, etc, etc. Straight out of the gate, I'm going to talk about a little group called Aussie Monsters. It was a Facebook fan group that originated around 2012 and consisted of different Gaga fans around Australia and New Zealand, with some people around the world mixed in. It was a fantastic little group that was quickly hijacked by problematic people. The number one problematic culprit actually being myself. I had developed this ridiculous reputation as an insecure internet troll, but really I was just straight up bullying, and I'm not proud of it. I would target people I felt had bullied others in the group, and I would go for the jugular, thinking at the time that it was perfectly fine because it's just bullying back the bullies, but it quickly spiraled into me just attacking anyone based on my own insecurities. So let's get this clear. If you're a bully, you need to fuck off and change your mindset. There's a lot of guilt and shame I carry with how I acted towards a lot of former friends and Gaga fans, especially in that group. Thankfully, time changes people like myself, and I have good camaraderie with a lot of people to this day. However, I also want to stress that while people can change and apologize and try to make amends, you aren't always going to get a positive response and expect things to smooth over. So if anyone from Aussie Monsters is listening and feels they still haven't received an apology from me, reach out anytime. I'd love to be able to reconnect. There are some people I haven't reached out to just because I felt that it wasn't the right time to apologize and that I felt it would actually do more harm trying to bring things up. So yeah, I will wait for you to come to me. Now, why I bring this up now is because one of the stories I'm going to talk about is something similar. I had gotten into numerous fights and arguments with a fellow Gaga fan who lives in Sydney. Unexpectedly, he asked me out on a date in 2014, and I thought, why not? Clearly there's some passion there, right? But it did not end well. First, he took me out to Pancakes on the Rocks, and when the bill came, he asked for me to pay because he allegedly had no money. I said that was fine and I didn't mind paying, thinking, maybe he'd pay for the next day. 2 minutes later, he's on his phone buying general admission tickets for the art rave. I was thrown a little, but I thought maybe he meant he had no money because he was buying said tickets, So I tried to let it go. I hadn't anticipated bringing him home or doing anything like having sex or anything like that. I'm not a prude by any means. It was just so unexpected that we would go from hating each other for years to suddenly hooking up. So I thought it would just be a cute little dinner date and that's it. Instead, we made out on the Darling Harbour Bridge for a good hour or two. He asked to come to mine and I said sure. Now here's where things get really messy. I was quite taken aback that again we had gone from enemies to making out that I just could not get in the mood to have sex. So what does he do? He pulls out his phone and starts jerking off next to me watching porn, saying something along the lines that he had blue balls and needed to get off. Those weren't his exact words, but it was enough to put me off. I'm a petty person though, so when he asked to take me out for a second date, I said yes, thinking that he would actually pay this time. And did he? Nope. He asked to come over again, and for some fucking reason, I said yes. He then made me watch Disney's Frozen, and I hated every fucking minute of that fucking movie. We did end up sleeping together and it was actually pretty great, but there was no way in hell I was going to date a Disney gay. He then asked to go on a third date, and it was to attend some dancing benefit he was attending, and I said maybe. He then proceeds to tell me that it would cost $50 each to attend, and that he needed me to not only pay for myself, but to pay for him too. That was the end of it. I've seen him maybe once or twice in the years since, and we had fought online quite a number of times. However, in saying that, he's genuinely a lovely person, and I wish the best for him. It's just unfortunate that that experience was so tainted, but we were just differently aligned on things like money and expectations of sex and things like that. It happens. So, yeah, it is what it is. Now, other fellow little monsters send me their submissions, including Alistair Has Been Bad, who wrote, I met my ex on GagaDaily.com in 2012, and he dumped me in 2018. I'm sorry to hear, Alistair, that sounds like shit. I also received 2 submissions from fellow Aussie Monster group members who wish to stay anonymous. The first person wrote, I fell in love with my first girlfriend around 2014, and she came to Adelaide to spend time with me. Unfortunately, I caught her cheating when her phone popped up with text messages from another girl, telling her that she loves her, and couldn't wait to spend time in the shower with her. The second person wrote, I caught my then boyfriend cheating on me because he posted on Grindr asking to do oral. I made a fake account and agreed to meet with him outside a regular area in Brisbane. He was shocked to see me instead and started crying, saying he was so sorry, but I didn't give a fuck anymore, and I haven't seen him since. Isn't it crazy how some relationships do fall apart like that? I've had some that have also ended similarly, which I'm not going to get into because it's not actually related to Gaga, but I feel your pain. Now, we're going to move on from bad romance to LoveGame.
Let's have some fun, this beat is sick. I wanna take a ride on your disco stick. Let's have some fun, this beat is sick. I wanna take a ride on your disco stick.
LoveGame is where the stories are all about hooking up, taking risks, and mind games. Now, one Redditor named AttentionDull5966 wrote, a few years ago, I had hooked up with some guy and we were just talking about how much I loved Gaga, and he started showing me pictures of when he went to school with her. Oh my god, isn't that like every little monster's dream? To be able to say that, they went to school with her or that they knew her in a different setting compared to like a fan meet and greet? I'm so jealous of your friend. Oceans1992 wrote, one time I matched with someone on a dating app who also happened to be a Gaga fan. We started talking and it was going seemingly well until she asked what my favourite album was. I replied Joanne, and she said ew, and then unmatched with me. Strangest experience I've ever had on a dating app. I don't understand the hatred for Joanne. There are so many good songs on there. I mean, John Wayne, Dancing in Circles, those are 2 of my absolute favourite Gaga songs. It's also Perfect Illusion, it's also Diamond Heart, Ayo's good. I mean, I don't really like Million Reasons, but that's my own personal thing. Anyway, it's actually surprising just how many Gaga fans I've actually hooked up with. One that immediately comes to mind was this very cute Italian boy who I met outside Gaga's hotel when she was touring Sydney for the Born This Way ball back in 2012. Now, controversially, at the time, I was in a relationship with someone else. and this cute Italian guy came over to me with a note, and he said, "I think you're really cute and I'd love to get dinner with you sometime." And on the note was his mobile number. I was completely blown away because nobody had actually asked me out until that point in time. Usually I'd be the one chasing someone else, but I had a moral dilemma. I was already dating and living with someone else at this time, and that relationship was falling apart quickly. So what did I do? I decided to end things peacefully with that person, and straight away went and organised a date with this cute Italian guy. We spent a night together cuddling, having great sex, and we saw each other a few more times, but unfortunately he was only visiting Sydney temporarily. We're still Facebook friends to this day, and I fondly look back at our short time together. And it's one of those things too where I don't understand people who immediately unfriend, exes or past hookups, etc. Like, you can still reflect on that time and also be respectful and not cheat on your current partner. But anyway, another experience I had was back in 2015. I'd quickly made friends with a fellow Gaga fan, and we had really great chemistry together. At the time, though, I was still not over my previous relationship, which led me to unfortunately lead this other guy on. Our friendship very quickly ended because I cut things off after rumours began spreading that we were 100% together. He didn't instigate the rumours, but at the time, I just completely freaked out and felt the only thing I could do was end things then and there with our friendship. We bumped into each other again at a convention in Melbourne, but haven't spoken in over 10 years. Thankfully though, he's dating a really great person who also happens to be a Gaga stan, and they attended the Mayhem Ball together. Funnily enough, and talk about a small world, so I also happened to go on 2 dates with their partner back in 2022, and it's no surprise they work so well together, and I'm very happy for them. This is one of those friendships that I rarely regret ending. A lot of friendships need to end at their own natural path. Sometimes you have to be that person that cuts the friendship. For me, though, I've always had a lot of regret about how I ended that friendship because it was never the other person's problem. It was always my own problem, my own insecurity. But you live and you learn and you grow. One story I want to quickly touch on is what happened at Art Rave in Sydney. So back in 2014, I had somehow miraculously secured a meet and greet Art Pop Zone ticket to the second Sydney Art Rave show. Holy fuck, that's a lot of words. I was so excited. Unfortunately at the time, I couldn't control my drinking habit. During the VIP pre-show, I lost count of how much wine I had, and I was so drunk that I was escorted out of the entire arena. I apparently called so many people, including my mum, my boss, and was only allowed back into the venue if I agreed to behave with security. Did I get to meet Gaga? Yes. But was I a huge mess? Yes. By the time I left the meet and greet portion, I had sobered up and was able to make my own choices. A good friend kindly let me stay at their hotel room, and we had a really good hookup, so to me that was actually probably the highlight. Yes, meeting Gaga is supposed to be the highlight, but yeah, this was a very close second. The aftermath of being drunk, though, meant I almost lost my job, and because I was convinced that somehow I must have been drugged instead of owning up to my alcoholic mistake, I was called out by the venue themselves. And what I mean by that is that I had posted on Facebook saying that, I think it was All Phones Arena or Acer Arena back in the day, I had tagged the location and I talked about how, according to one of my friends who was also in the meet and greet group, that they had seen someone put a pill into my drink. And things don't necessarily add up as to why didn't that friend tell me that there was a pill put into the drink in the first place. In reality, I think it was just the fact that I drank so much and that was the reason I was so erratic, right? But the venue called me out and said, yep, that never happened. So I was like, shit, and quickly deleted it on Facebook and all that. But yeah, with that, this is just a big lesson in keeping your drinks to an absolute minimum. I mean, it's no surprise that I'm sober these days. But also, the other lesson is, if a cute guy invites you back to their hotel, say yes, so long as you are in a state of mind to make said choices. Alright, let's talk about inspiring love stories. It's time to vanish into you. I was happy to see a lot of people on Reddit post about their true love stories, so I'll read these out. Pineapple Vomit wrote, "My husband and I became fans in early 2008 on the way to our honeymoon when we heard Just Dance on the radio. In 2017, we had tickets to the Joanne World Tour, and on the day of our show, he was diagnosed with leukemia, and I had to sell our tickets. It's the only time she's performed in our state. While he was in the hospital, she played The Cure on the AMAs, and I sing it to him with her. He's now in remission after a bone marrow transplant 6 years ago. We went to the Mayhem Ball together this fall and had the time of our lives. I'm so sorry that your husband had to experience leukemia. I am happy to hear, though, that he's in remission and that you're both able to finally see the show together. It's incredible. I love reading these stories. Huge Faithlessness _65 wrote, I met my boyfriend in university. He used to sit behind me in all our classes together. In my periphery, I would notice that he was always sketching on handouts and notebooks. Later on, I discovered that he was drawing Gaga's likeness, her iconic nose, and wardrobe silhouettes, from her costumes to her armadillo heels. I also found out he was sketching the back of my head, from an angle that captured my nose bridge. He told me my nose reminded him of Gaga's. When we were officially boyfriends, we were basically inseparable, down to our first jobs. Throughout uni, I would sneak out of my apartment to go to his. We would watch Gaga videos. He had downloaded a lot of her live performances in his laptop, which further solidified the little monstrosity in me. Made me listen to her unreleased songs, but Brooklyn Nights was our most played at his place. During the Chromatica era, we sat side by side in the office during lunch and watched the Stupid Love music video. I even have a picture of it. Now we're 10 years in. We attended 2 nights of the Mayhem Ball, where Brooklyn Nights was properly performed. When Gaga sang Vanish Into You, the line "Two lovers regret their time" oddly made me emotional because I thought, I vow to never take our history for granted. Full circle and fully emotional. Still got this stupid love. I love this story. Thank you so much for writing in. Fat Bin Chicken wrote, I proposed to my longtime girlfriend at the Melbourne show this weekend. It was so very special. I'm very happy for you. Ourbus8850 wrote, yes, I do have a story. My wife and I, yes, I am a lesbian, met in NYC in 2010. NYC being New York City. We were at a lesbian bar in the village on our first date. Playing in the bar was Just Dance. We danced and sang along. We both bonded over how much we liked Lady Gaga. She told me all about how she saw Lady Gaga at Radio City Music Hall for the Monster Ball back in January 2010. She said she would really like us to go to one of her shows. Well, in July and August, we finally went to the Mayhem Ball in LA together. I'm so jealous, I wish I went to the Mayhem Ball. Glittering Way 7300 wrote, I'm a 40-year-old male little monster looking for love. What a dream it would be to fall in love with a fellow little monster. Trust me, it'll happen for you too. The best advice I ever received about looking for love was to actually stop looking and actually just be open. So maybe it's dating someone you normally wouldn't date before. Maybe it's exploring more apps. Maybe it's creating more friends and going outside your social circle. But it'll happen for you. Now, talking about my own experiences, I'm currently in a long-term relationship that's been rock steady for almost 3 years now. Both of us love Gaga, but she's not the foundation for how we met. In fact, my first ever partner and I met because of our shared interests in music and video games. But here's where things get messy. I technically stole him from another man he was in a committed relationship with at the time. So let's talk about it. Back in 2009, I was a very hormonal, very just eager 17-year-old. And I had the biggest crush on my friend at the time. Let's call him Peter. And with Peter, we actually worked together as well at our KFC back in Nambucca Heads. And at the time, I didn't really have an interest in him right off the bat. We were friends and he was one of the only other gay people in the town, so I gravitated towards him, but I was also dating other people at the time, both men and women. I was bisexual, still am to this day, thank you very much, but it wasn't until Peter and I came closer as friends that I realized I had such a big attraction to him. And with that, it wasn't that I necessarily planned to be a homewrecker and steal him from his current boyfriend. It was just that the guy he was dating was such an abusive asshole. I'll never forget when I would go over to his place, and in my mind, I was friends with both of them. And out of nowhere, the guy he was dating would throw pans on the ground and just be really nasty and blame Peter for everything wrong in his life. And I remember thinking, fuck that, Peter, you deserve better. We became closer over the course of a year. It got to the point where Peter actually came to my house because he had felt like he had nowhere else to turn to. And this was all because of the actions of the guy he was dating, of course. We naturally just became closer as friends. What kickstarted it all, though, and I will never forget this to the day I die, was that he came over, and the room I had was this large sunroom that was converted into a bedroom. So I had a really large bed, I had a lounge, I had a TV. I mean, I was like the king when I was a teenager. Like, I paid for everything my own way with my job and everything, of course, but I was privileged to do so. And with that, I said to Peter that he could stay over my place anytime, still live with my parents, but, you know, he could stay over anytime, and he could sleep on the lounge. Or he could sleep in the bed, I would sleep on the lounge, you know, trying to be accommodating. And this was right at the time where I felt I had my peak crush on him. He came over, he was really upset, and I never instigated anything with him. I never tried to force him to hook up with me or be in a relationship with me or anything like that, because even back then at 17, considering how stupid I am and some of the decisions I made in my 20s, I always knew it was wrong to try and sleep with someone or whatever when they're in a heightened emotional state. And with that, I remember he was adamant that he wanted to sleep on the lounge and I would sleep on the bed. And I said, that's fine. I'm sleeping on the bed, and I wake up, and Peter is cuddling me. And not only is he cuddling me, but he's feeling his hands all up my body and everything. And I froze. And I remember thinking, oh my god, I really want this. And it was one of those moments in my teenagehood, especially after freshly coming out, that things made sense. You know, this is where I was supposed to be. This is what I was supposed to do. And from there, I really wanted Peter. And so he was still with his boyfriend for another couple of weeks. They eventually split. From there, Peter and I hooked up. And this is so funny. The first time we hooked up was when the Telephone music video got released in March 2010. We were inseparable. He actually moved in to my room, and we had a good 2-year-long relationship. It did end quite badly because it wasn't meant to be. In hindsight, I think we should have just remained friends and maybe just casually hooked up every now and then. But he was in a bit of a rebound stage. I was quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Desperate. And I don't mean desperate in the sense of desperate for anyone. But I was 17. I wanted my first relationship. I wanted, typical rites of passage. I wanted my license. I wanted to move out. I wanted my job. I wanted to finish high school. And I felt what was missing was I wanted that gay relationship. I wanted that love story. And because we were just two different people, there was a lot of clashing there. Now, in saying that, Peter and I are still friends to this day. Caught up a lot over the years. It's interesting from his perspective where he doesn't actually see it as a rebound relationship. For me, I still do, because he went from being in such a abusive relationship to, moving in with me so suddenly. And he sees it more as a natural progression where he was falling out of love with his partner at the time, and we just happened to find each other at that time. So, yeah, who knows? But, yeah, I just find it fascinating that me losing my virginity and all that happened during the Monster Ball tour. And it's so funny looking back on it now, because it's like, why was the Fame Monster so instrumental in my first relationship, me losing my virginity, etc.? And yeah, just crazy. But in fact, actually, the last person that I felt I made a romantic connection with purely because of Gaga is actually Chris, my regular co-host. And I really hope he doesn't mind me talking about this, because I didn't vet this with him by any means. So just to summarize, Chris and I had been flirting between 2014 to 2016. We finally met up when he visited Sydney in 2016. Out of privacy and respect for him, I'm not going to go into any further details. What I will say is that I had been in such a funk for the 2 years prior. I had gone through quite a traumatic breakup, And him and I spending time together was exactly what I needed to stop being so down in the dumps. And with Chris and I, it wasn't a relationship or anything like that, but it was more than just a simple hookup. I wasn't expecting to fall for Chris as hard as I did back in 2016, but it's a lovely memory that I hold dear. You know, we listened to Joanne together when it was released, and we continued to talk on and off here and there. It went from being, you know, a friendship to flirting to, I don't know what to call it, something that was different. And now it's gone back to being a friendship, and it has been a friendship for a good, 10 years now. It's just something that I wanted to touch base on because it's one of those rare instances in my life where it felt like everything fell into the right place at the right time. You know, if I didn't have this experience with Chris, I wonder how long I would still be, in a self-pitying, down in the dumps moment for. And, with that being said, I have tremendous respect and admiration for Chris. He's a really great guy. So, hey, if you come across him on the dating apps, shoot your shot. He's a true gem. And if you're wondering if my other co-host Robert and I have ever done anything, no. The only fluids we've exchanged is when I gave him a bag of my used vapes for one of his health projects. He's also a lovely guy though, so definitely hit him up. Just be warned if you go on a date with him or go back to his place for a hookup or whatever, his elevator never works, so you may have to walk up some stairs. Now, to wrap things up, I want to talk about all the great friendships made because of Lady Gaga. Over the past 17 years, I've been very lucky to meet a lot of talented, kind, creative, and incredible people. It's no surprise that so many Gaga fans, especially from the Aussie Monsters group, have grown up to be such star professionals and forces of nature in their fields. I'm talking successful makeup artists, musicians, radio hosts, photographers, models, teachers, advocates. There's so much more. And I admit, the thing I'm gutted about in terms of not going to the Mayhem Ball was not getting to see Gaga. It was actually that I didn't get to see a lot of the people that I met during the Born This Way Ball and Art Rave. You never know the true fear of missing out until it hits you seeing everyone have a great time. Whether it be camping overnight, lining up at the barrier, etc. It just sucks being a 33-year-old with no energy. I miss the days of being outside Gaga's hotel and lining up extra early outside of the shows to get a great spot. So yeah, with that being said, thank you for listening. If you're interested in more stories to do with finding love on the apps, bad hookups, embarrassing dates, etc., check out my other episodes of Date or Disaster. Thanks for listening, and happy holidays.
Light me up, put me on top, let's fall la 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 la. Light me up, put me on top, let's fall la 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 la. The only place you'll wanna be is underneath my Christmas tree. The only place you'll wanna be is underneath my Christmas tree. Light me up, put me on top, let's fall la 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 la. Light me up, put me on top, let's fall la 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 la. Ho ho ho, under the mistletoe.